Liverpool Football Club, the golden years.
Alan Kennedy, and he goes on, and he scores!
Mulvey, and here's Rush, onside, Ian Rush, goal! Oh yeah! Now Dalglish, across the face of the goal!
Liverpool was an ordinary side in the second division, but that was before Bill Shankly took over as manager in 1959.
When Bill Shankly arrived in 1959, in December of that year, Liverpool had had great times. They'd won half a dozen league championships, but they were in the second division and they'd been struggling to get out of it. The ground that we see around us today, Anfield, it was a bit like a shed. It wasn't as auspicious as it is today, and they were really struggling. And without him, and without his personality and his characteristics, his energy, his desire, his enthusiasm, he was the person that put the foundations in for Liverpool Football Club as they are today. So whilst he may not have been the most successful in terms of trophies won, without the foundations he put in at the time, who knows where Liverpool Football Club would have been then.
It is with great regret that I, as chairman of Liverpool Football Club, have to inform you that Mr. Shankly has intimated that he wishes to retire from active participation in league football, and the board has, with extreme reluctance, accepted his decision.
It was disbelief at the time, because it did come out of the blue. Liverpool had won the FA Cup just a couple of months earlier in the May, and there had been no sign that he'd had ill health or he was fed up with the job or anything like that. So it was a major shock. I mean, local national TV, it was headline news, and there's a famous clip on Granada Report of a very famous broadcaster in his youth called Tony Wilson, who went on to create Factory Records and become a prominent broadcaster, going out into the streets of Liverpool and saying, you know, Bill Shankly has resigned today, what do you think? And not one person believed him. Very shortly afterwards, I think he realised, have I made the right decision? So, but there was major disbelief and shock.
When Bill Shankly resigned, few could have predicted his successor was going to be just as successful. However, between 1974 and 1983, Bob Paisley went on to win 3 European Cups and 6 First Division Championships for Liverpool.
For a lot of people, you know, Bill Shankly is Liverpool's greatest manager because he put the foundations in. Would Bob Paisley have become Liverpool manager if it hadn't been for Bill Shankly? And that's why the boot room team of Shankly, Paisley and his assistants Fagan, Moran and several others who sort of were in the background, without a team of all those people, you know, Liverpool wouldn't be, you know, the great global success it's been and the great global name it is today. But certainly in terms of success, he was Liverpool's greatest manager.
Liverpool has had many great players in its time, but Kenny Dalglish is still to this day considered the best player in the club's history.
Well, he was the ultimate professional on and off the pitch. He led a quiet family life away from the game. And for Liverpool, every time he put the shirt on, the fans could recognise in him great performances and great desire. And that's all they ever want from a Liverpool player. So, you know, it was like a hand in glove, really. And he's gone on to, of course, become Liverpool's manager, not just once, but twice. And he's very, very humble to this day is very humble, and you know, the fans love that.
Joe Fagan took over as manager in 1983 and had a successful time winning the Championship, European Cup and Milk Cup. However, Joe's retirement at the time in 1985 was overshadowed by tragedy. The Hazel disaster is one of the darkest days for Liverpool Football Club, which resulted in 39 Juventus fans losing their lives. The club and fans both made complaints about the choice of stadium before the game, as it appeared to be crumbling. Both sets of fans were taunting each other in the stadium, but as Liverpool fans charged, the Juventus supporters fled to a wall which blocked their escape. The wall then collapsed on top of them. If the Hazel disaster was the darkest day in Liverpool's history, then the Hillsborough disaster in 1989 is most certainly the saddest. 96 Liverpool fans went to a football match and never returned.
The grounds went from being 75% standing and 25% seated to being 100% all-seater. After the Hillsborough disaster, a gentleman called Lord Justice Saylor had to produce a report into the disaster, and the findings were very clear that on the day, the policing and the stewarding, if it had been the way it is these days, it could easily have been avoided. But subsequently, his report said that in 5 years, all the top flight clubs had to get rid of fences. They had to introduce all-seater for safety, and along with that came more professional police and more professional stewarding. Every club in England now, whether they're large, like Liverpool, Everton, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, or small, like Tranmere, or Doncaster, or Darlington, or Watford, everybody's got to have a safety control room. And these days, you know, it's why encroachment on the pitch will lead to a huge fine, banned from every ground. And again, similar to Heysel, you know, out of something terrible and tragic comes something better. So, you know, thankfully these days, you can never ever have that type of tragedy ever happen again. So, for the 96 Liverpool fans who sadly, tragically lost their lives, their legacy now is that everybody else at every club can safely come along. And the demographics of the fans now have changed as well. You get a lot more ladies coming, you get a lot more women and kids. So, you know, time moves on, and I don't think we'll ever go back in the top flight to see him standing again.
The 28,000 people on the Kop itself begin singing together. They seem to know intuitively when to begin. Throughout the match, they invent new words, usually within the framework of old Liverpool songs, to express adulatory, cruel, or bawdy comments about the players or the police. But even then, they begin singing these new words with one immediate, huge voice. They seem, mysteriously, to be in touch with one another, with Wacker, the spirit of Scouse.
On the Kop, behind the goal, you'd have 28,000 packed in. A lot of clubs can't get 28,000 in the whole stadium. At Anfield today, the other three parts of the stadium, if you packed all those people who are now seated onto the Kop goal, it'd be approximately that many. Where one seat is, if you can picture 3 adults where one seat is, it was a bit like being in a human tidal wave. Very, very exciting, very thrilling, because you could move 3 or 4 rows of steps up and down for 90 minutes, whether you were winning, losing or drawing, and 3 or 4 yards to the left and the right. But it could be a little bit dangerous as well, and a lot of the old stadiums were similar to that. A lot of Liverpool fans, despite what happened at Hillsborough, if they could go back to all standing on the Kop tomorrow, they would, because it was like a community of people. You may not have seen them for the rest of the year, but when you came to the game, people had their own specific favourite places, and people got to know each other.